Hello, all. It's very good to be here again for one more session of DevSecOps Poland chapter. I'm Cássio Pereira, the chapter leader of DevSecOps Poland. Again, it's a really pleasure to have you here. We had the session last week. It was very good that we were talking about container security in general, Kubernetes configuration, policies, and all those containerized environment. It was super cool, so I really suggest you to go there and give a look. Okay, today we are going to be presenting a new session with a guest, Manuel. I will introduce him in a moment, but before that, we need to really apologize because this session should take place yesterday, but we had technical problems, schedule problems, agenda problems. But here we are today to present this session. Okay, so we're going to be talking about software boom at the time of DevOps. And for that, I want to invite to the stage Manuel
Hello.
Schuller. Is that correct? Your surname, Schuller?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
No problem. Whatever works. Hi, Cassio.
Also, Manuel. Again, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for the time. Thank you for accepting our invitation. So please introduce yourself to the community and let me know. Then I will put your screen to present. Also, feel free to introduce yourself and to present your content. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Can I suggest you send also on stage the presentation, because the first slide is a presentation slide. Okay. So we'll talk today, as Cassio said, about something different. UK guys, you would say, and now something completely different than Kubernetes security and containers. That we will talk about software bill of material. Software bill of material at the time of DevOps, and not only DevSecOps, VSM, or whatever you want, you name it. The focus will be on what does it mean today when we talk about software bill of material. It used to have a meaning some time ago. Now it's slightly different, but it's slightly more useful also. So we will go to that. Before the small introduction slide, so I'm Manuel. I've been working on the DevOps industry since even before DevOps was called DevOps. We will go a little bit through that also. I've made several companies. You may guess in the background that I'm still using a background, a picture, which is software is eating the world. And I like it because on the top of the screen, you see I've been working for Opsware, and Opsware was a company created by Mark Andreessen. Mark Andreessen, who is the guy who is quoted very often for that software is eating the world. So I've made several companies. Recently, I'm also DevOps Institute ambassador and Continuous Delivery Foundation community builder, it's called. You have my LinkedIn here at the bottom left of the screen. Don't hesitate. So that's all about myself. Let's go and continue on that software is eating the world. I will not over comment that slide because we all know that it's something completely obvious. I just took 2010, 15, and 20. We all know that today software is driving the top companies that are in that top 5, top 10 market cap. So software has been eating the world, and every business is now a software business. We all know that. But it will be a link also with my software bill of material, where what does it mean having software which is at the center of every business? There are three things that I want to mention that are strictly related to my bill of material. Drive the innovation and drive it quickly. Optimize that software delivery supply chain, which is from development to delivery and to production, to operate the software, and reduce the risk, which is something we are all after. We've all always been after, but which is difficult at the end of the day to achieve. How to actually reduce the risk of sending software in production. So the challenges in the modern software delivery today, also we all know that, but it's still useful for my bill of material. We don't have a common language, or this is a starting point. Okay, very often we have disconnected teams, we have disconnected communication, and collaboration is difficult. So how can we adopt, how can we go towards a common language? Also, for the transparency, once we have the language, we must have that will to make transparency a reality, manage current software delivery process with a complete transparency on all the cycle. And basically managing the current state from a point A to a point B. Where do we want to go? What point do we want to reach? So the bottom line, it's very difficult, not to say impossible, to make software delivery with these characteristics: quick, rapid, repeatable, and scalable. This is not something easy to achieve. It's something easy to put on a slide, as you see. But with the experience, with the background that I have and many of my peers have, it's very difficult to achieve. But we're working on it, and we will see that software bill of material is one of the central tools that, at the end of the day, has always been here. That was a little bit forgotten. It was not named 10 years or 15 years ago, but that is back now as a formal bill of material, where we will be able to have an additional tool to solve these problems. So the other bullet points: the investment and people are not producing the desired results, and it's very difficult to demonstrate the result. It's some kind of corollary with the previous ones. But anyway, if we want to show that in a slide which is quite clear, with the teams, the tools, the processes that are growing, then the risk is growing. And at the opposite, the visibility, the control, the governance, and the speed, the pace is not growing, is decreasing dramatically, and complexity is more difficult to manage. But complexity is nothing more than adding some numbers, multiply the teams, the tools, the processes without controlling them. Okay? If we want to control them, then we have some solutions. So when we talk about modern software delivery, we're talking about several things that we all know. Still continuous integration, we all know. Continuous delivery, we all know. We try to implement continuous delivery. Release orchestration or release automation, eased by feature management, tending towards value stream management. We've been reading a lot of things about that. I've been discussing a lot of this subject with many of my peers, with many experts. What is important at the end of the day is, what is the foundation of that? And the foundation is a single source of truth. We did not invent anything saying that, okay? The single source of truth, we've always been looking for that single source of truth, how to have good data for making decision. But for software delivery, we need a single source of software delivery truth. And what is that single source of software delivery truth? It's very simply the bill of material. So my bill of material, I hope you don't have the same thing I have on my screen. Let me check. No, you don't. I have a lot of small numbers that appeared on my screen, so I didn't want the streaming to have these numbers also. So anyway, sorry. So my bill of material, it used to be a description when I started to work, even before I started to work, when I was studying. I remember the bill of material was the list of sources. Okay, where are my sources? Where are they kept? At that time, it was in a directory, or it was in SCCS under Unix. It's not to say that I'm old, but I have some experience, and it was a description of how the software was built. What are the source? What is the build chain? And how can we reproduce the generation of, at that time it was executable, now we would say artifact, but how can we reproduce the generation of the artifact? I need the source code, I need the build chain. It was a problem for the build chain because there were some tools. The tools have to run on the same environments. Basic things that were, at the end of the day, quite easy to solve. We had some archives. We could keep, and we had to keep. I've been working in the defense industry, and in the defense industry, we had to keep some kind of virgin machines with the operating system and the build tools, so that we would be able at any moment to get that machine from where it was stored, switch it on, and run the build chain to be able to build the software. Now the definition has changed a little bit, and this is the reason why bill of material was forgotten. It has become how the software is delivered. So what's the difference? I have my source code, I have my build chain, I build the artifact. How do I uh, go into production? Okay, usually I have a pipeline for that. I have a pipeline where I will be testing my artifact or my product. I will be scanning. I will verify the compliance with a lot of rules, whatever my industry. I have some rules to comply to. I have some standards, and at the end of the day, once my software is evaluated, tested against all that, I will have some kind of stamp to say, I'm okay, my pipeline has correctly uh, brought my product just before the production, and it's okay to release my software in production. And everything that will happen, so not only the build, but everything that will happen during my product life, my product release cycle, will be part of the bill of material. So it's an extension, okay? An extension of that notion where I had the source code and the build chain. Now I have the source code, the build chain, the test chain, the scan results, everything that happened to my software. So extension, which is comparable to what we have today in terms of audit and compliance. The audit and compliance 20 years ago had a completely different meaning. It was a very simple meaning. Now, compliance is a complex problem to solve for most of the companies. It's the evolution. And we have the same evolution for the bill of material. Focused, and it's because of today's implementation, focused on software delivery security, how to secure my supply chain. And we will see that this has two meanings. Okay, the first meaning is how to secure the product that I'm delivering. How do I scan the product to make sure that it is compliant with the security level that I'm looking for? And how also to secure the supply chain itself, how to make sure, and the bill of material will address both of them, how to make sure that my supply chain is secured from the beginning to the end. So where bill of material was made of was made of sources, it's now made also of the results, because results will change over time. Results of testing, results of scanning. So it depends on the time it is generated. If I say it in another way, um, the bill of material of my release today and my release tomorrow may be different. If I have a new vulnerability, and this is an example that we will go through at the end of the presentation, if I have a new vulnerability that is discovered, then my software may not be compliant to the discovery of that new vulnerability. In that case, the bill of material will change because I have to record that lack of compliance, that lack of scan passing, because I have a new vulnerability that has been discovered. So, before going into that, let's go into a little bit deeper into the content. Something which is a good news, okay, is that today everything is AC as code. Okay, we have, I mean, each tool, each technology today is as code. Still saying it in another way, if it's not as code, it will not survive. Okay, everything today is as code. The source is code. The infrastructure is code. Terraform, Chef, whatever I can think about is code. Provisioning is code. Up to bare metal provisioning, I can have a code from the bare metal to a machine up and running with operating system installed and whatever is running on that machine. But it's not only the source and the infrastructure. The processes are also as code. The release process and its outcome is as code. The test script, should it be traditional or scanners or APM or whatever, is as code. The audit and compliance is becoming as code. You have today some compliance engines where describing the rules is code, and running the rules and obtain an audit report is also a code. Both will be part of the bill of material. The code of the rules and the result, so the audit that is produced against these rules for that specific release. Another characteristic also that is important, less technical, but as important as the rest, the escrow. Okay, escrow, what does it mean? Escrow in the English dictionary is a bond, deed, or the document kept in the custody of a third party and taking effect only when a specified condition has been fulfilled. Telling a story, okay, the escrow is the notary where you will put a document and the document will be disclosed only when something defined in that document will happen. So it's the document you put within your notary. Yes, but okay, the notary. The notary is a repository where you keep important information. You will keep, by the way, the bill of material. Care to the internet connection. If you need an internet connection, then there may be a problem. And today, we need an internet connection for anything. Public libraries, tools, will be kept for the same time, because there is a time for keeping in escrow. So all these kind of things are important when it comes to the definition of escrowing the bill of material. Another characteristic, legally and financially unlinked from the software provider or vendor, because it has to be independent. So the notary in the real life is a third party. Okay, when we decide, you and me, to put a document in the notary, it's because the notary is independent. It doesn't work for me, it doesn't work for you. He is independent. We pay the notary, both of us, for the service of keeping some information. This is the same thing here. It has to be legally and financially unlinked from the software vendor. So GitHub, in that sense, is not exactly an escrow because it's not completely independent. So I just wanted to mention it, GitHub or any source code repo. Now for implementing, okay, how DevOps principle can help. In the DevOps principles, I took two of them that are very interesting for implementing and using the bill of material. So the first one, continuous integration. So the goal of continuous integration, we will not do a discussion here on the role of continuous integration, but we continuously integrate on a regular basis. Ideally, when something changes in the source code, then we will go into a build. Okay, this is the small first part of the bill of material that I was talking about that was already existing some time ago. So why not, and this is the way to go, take advantage of the CI to feed the bill of material. I will have access to the source code. I will have access to the build process. I will have access to what has been generated. And most of the time, I will have access to some basic test results, like a SAS scan, for example, which is very often part of my CI. I have some automated testing. So it's something that does not cost anything or that costs very, very low amount of additional work to add in the CI process, in the CI pipeline, CI job, name it like you want, to add these steps to feed the bill of material. And we were talking about the escrow. One of the benefits also, because we will, at the end of the CI, very probably deploy the application into an environment, because we will send that application to further testing, integration testing, SIT, UAT, you name it, but we will deploy it. Why not? And this is one of the choices we've made with several companies. Why not installing, also deploying what has been produced into the escrow? Because in that case, what has been produced, so the executable or the artifact, was looking for that word, sorry. The artifact that has been produced, it is deployed on the platform, but it can be deployed also on the escrow to be kept by the notary that I was talking about. So some good opportunities to take advantage of the CI phase that exists in most of the project today, the CI phases, the CI phase, and to include in that CI phase some additional steps that will feed the bill of material, that will feed the principle of the escrow. Continuous delivery also is an important aspect. Goal of continuous deployment, of continuous delivery, is to deliver the software in a working state on a frequent basis. Okay, so once more, the artifact, the product can be deployed to different outputs. Continuous delivery can also spawn an infrastructure, so create an infrastructure, create a target environment to support the activities around the bill of materials. So we have several opportunities, both on the CI and on the CD activities, that will help us um, work towards the construction of the bill of material. I just take an example here. This is a small screenshot, okay, of a pipeline, so a pipeline stage. The stage is production release. What do I do to be allowed to enter, so entry gate, to enter the stage production, where I will deploy to production, run smoke test, close CR. What do I do? So I have also that opportunity, use the tooling I have to make sure, for that example, that I have my bill of material entry that has been created. In that example, I also verify, because I have a CMDB, which is a different tool or repository that handles different information. I have a CMDB check. I have additionally an immutability check, because the bill of material has to be immutable. Immutable means that whatever has been written in the bill of material, it cannot be deleted, it cannot be replaced, because it's important to keep in the bill of material also the history of the artifact and the history typically of the compliance of the artifact. This is the example we will go through in a minute. Before that, the standards, important standards. There are, so I picked up three of them. The first one is the first ISO standard that has been issued. So I don't know. So I will click on that just to see if no, you don't have the result. Okay, so you should be able to click here. The important aspect of the ISO, it's something that has been defined in 2015, that is focused on identifying the platform and the software. So this is really something that is focused on the identification. Okay, how do I identify the different pieces of my bill of material? The second one, Cyclone DX. So the latest version, as you see, is quite recent. It's less than 6 months old, which is focused on communicating the software inventory and communicating also the security, so the vulnerabilities and the integrity of the software. I mentioned Cyclone DX because it's the most recognized within software vendors. It's also using the ISO tags, so the first one here, but it's very popular within software vendors. So if a vendor proposes you a bill of material with what is selling or what is giving you, then very probably it's a Cyclone DX format. The third one I chose is the one from the Linux Foundation, so something free. SPDX, the SPDX one, as you see, is more recent. The last version is, yeah, it's 6 months ago, May 2023, and it's focused on communicating software provenance, licenses, security, and other information of that kind. And the latest version, so the one of May, is focused on the interoperability with the other formats. So hopefully, the Linux Foundation, I mean, once more, I don't want to be too much cum laude with the Linux Foundation. But once more, openness of the Linux Foundation could bring some simplification in the management of that bill of material. So the standards, okay, what do they focus on? Because at the end of the day, this is what I'm interested in, the content. The content is what is in the bill of material. The identification. Identification, how do I identify the content? So what is inside? How do I identify the different components? The automation, how is it created? How is it generated? How do I insert my additional steps in my CI and CD processes? The communication, how is it easy to communicate between the systems? This is where the Linux Foundation could and the trends for those extensions, currently there are some working groups on the completeness of the bill of material, which is not something easy. Know if and where the bill of material may be incomplete. So it means that we need some environmental information, some dynamic metadata. So this is something more difficult. There are some works involving AI for addressing the completeness, but this is the current works that are done. Okay, this is the current work. Sorry, I had an application that stopped on my machine. The current work that are done for evaluating the completeness of what you generate. So at the end of the day, it's another artifact. Okay, so it's an artifact that is made of artifact. I have that in my my conclusion slide. So the example I wanted to show you, if we go back, oh, not yet, sorry, no, BoM is back. BoM is back 2021, 12th of May 2021. This is the day where President Biden produced an executive order saying roughly every software that is delivered should be delivered with a software bill of material. So this is something that is coming from the US recently, very recently, and it's not completely frozen yet. You've probably heard about the Cyber Resilience Act in the EU, where we have roughly the same definition, the same needs of bill of material within the European Union. So this is something that is coming, and this will be something that will be part of the contract. Okay, so the contract, and I see it today. Now, today the way it works is that a customer who is buying a software, who is acquiring a software, is he makes sure with his own tools that the bill of material is he can identify the bill of material, so he can extract the information from what he's buying, and he's able to rescan or to regenerate the pieces of the bill of material that may not be up to date. Okay, tomorrow with the Cyber Resilience Act, with the executive order, software providers should provide a software BoM also. There is a very interesting article on that. It's not the purpose, but I read that 2 days ago by one of my peers, Curtis Yanko, who is working a lot also on the bill of material, on that so kind of ping pong between vendors, software providers, and customers. Who is really using the SBOM and how it is used? It's very interesting. You can find it, Curtis Yanko, on LinkedIn. But let's move forward. So BoM, it used to include the source code and the specific branches and versions used for the build. It used to include the name of the snapshot of the build environments, the details in the build environments, the build chain I was talking about, a list of all the tools used to build, version numbers, location, everything that allows to reproduce the build, a list of all the libraries used for the build, so everything that is linked to my software, instructions to perform the build. This is what I had before. So now, what does it also include? It also includes all my as code, okay? So the tests, the scanners, the infrastructure, the processes, the same information. They are versioned, they are kept in a source code repository with all the capabilities of identification, versioning, branching, and so on. So basically, well, I just take some examples, but we can have some infrastructure, we can have some testing, some scanning, check marks, we can have some testing, this is Selenium, I believe. We can have some processes. This is the definition of the pipeline by CloudBees. We can have definition of the jobs. This is a Jenkins job. So everything being as code, I just put that in my source code repository, and I reference that, or I put that in my SBOM. Also because it was the source, but also the results, the scans, again, the latest state of the art. Okay, think about a scan just before and just after SolarWinds. It would have been different. So if I rescan after SolarWinds, I will have a different scan result to put in my SBOM. It's the reason why it's at a certain point in time. So let us take that example. That example is not 2 years ago, it's five years ago. Just imagine, we were in a DevSecOps workshop, June 2018, okay, with John Willis. You may have heard about John Willis. Wesley Pullen, who is working for CloudBees. Myself, you build it, you secure it. What did we do? We did the following. We had an application based on struts 2, source code, Jenkins, pipeline to bring into production, scan with Nexus IQ server. Everything was fine. Okay, but for some reasons, we had a strut 2 vulnerability that came into the picture. So what happened? If I want to do the same with the same application, with the same process, with the same pipeline, with the same Jenkins job, with the same configuration of my Nexus IQ, then it doesn't go to production because there is a vulnerability that prevents the pipeline that has that automated behavior to go into production. So this is exactly what I'm looking for. In my software bill of material here, I would have had all the configuration of all the tools, the result of the scan at a certain time saying my version 2510 is okay for going to production. Then another scan of my 2510 saying it's not okay to go to production. So I have some vulnerabilities. All of this accumulated in an immutable way in my bill of material. And at the end of the day, replacing the library with the one that does not contain the vulnerability, that will allow to go to production. So as you see, here I have those differences of behavior that are put in my software bill of material in an immutable way. I used to be compliant, then I was not compliant anymore, then I had to rebuild with another version of the library, then I was compliant. I hold on just 1 second that I put the light on. Just to comment on virtual technologies, containers, this is something that can help us, okay? That can help us keep some information. Keep some information, keep some versions, especially now with the flexibility of containers. I can keep some versions of the different tools I've been using, even if those tools in my real environment have been upgraded or have some different characteristics. I'm not even talking about the acquisitions between the different software vendors. That is also a risk for me as a customer to have a change in the way the tools are working. So these virtual technologies and especially containers can help us having snapshots of the different tools we are using so that we can escrow these containers, we can escrow those virtual machines to make sure, just like I had, you remember at the beginning of the presentation, I had my physical machine somewhere that was stored, and if I wanted to rebuild the software, I could take that physical machine, switch it on, and regenerate the software. It's roughly the same with the flexibility of those new technologies. So, long story short, the typical use cases of the bill of material. Obviously, I can use the bill of material for automation, and automation can be useful to my bill of material. It's easy to include some BoM as BoM verification along the life cycle and automate if my bill of material is correct. Then I can move forward uh, on my release process. Compliance, of course, this is the main use I've done of the bill of material to prove the compliance. Because in the bill of material, I have the results of the different scans, for example. So making sure that those scans comply to some rules is something straightforward. Security, obviously, any assessment, any audit, if I want to automate my DevSecOps process, I can rely on the bill of material. And, well, understand the complexity. I could have put impact analysis, for example. The bill of material is obviously useful for impact analysis because I know exactly, and most of the tools that provide some bill of material capabilities. I've been talking a lot with some people of several companies, Secure Code or Code Notary, where one of the interesting features is I generate the bill of material, the basic bill of material before starting my release process. But from that basic bill of material, I can also ask myself, oh, I have a vulnerability in that piece of code. What is the impact in all my other artifacts, all my other products that may be using that piece of library, of code, or whatever is that piece. Okay, so and as I said, as a conclusion, once more a reference to Unix. Unix was delivered in the 70s with two language analysis tools, Lex, lexical analyzer, and Yak. Yak meant yet another compiler. So you were able to create a compiler and to compile that compiler so that it can become an executable compiler. And I would say, if we think in the same way, the bill of material, the software bill of material, is yet another artifact. So it's an artifact because I want to be able to notarize it. So notarize is, at the end of the day, put in an artifact repository, which is a specific one, but somebody who keeps an artifact, to keep some information, it's an artifact repository. And that artifact is describing or containing some other artifacts that make up the complete software and the complete history of that very version of the software, from the very beginning until the handoff to production. So the complete software delivery supply chain. So as a summary, to go back on one of the first slides, where the bill of materials some time ago meant to describe how the software was built, it's now how the software is released, is delivered, the complete delivery supply chain. It's an extension of that notion because it was simple to build some time ago. Now we want to have a complete visibility on the supply chain. And where BoM was made of sources, it's now also made of the result of what happened to the software in that supply chain. And it will change over time. So as a consequence, the software bill of material depends on the time it has been generated. And since it can change, since it can include some new information, it has to be immutable because we want to keep the complete history against time. So thank you very much. I've been a little bit longer than planned, Cassio, but I hope it was something that was interesting to you and the community. Now it's time to open for questions.
Yes, Manuel, very good. I had a lot of questions, but I was holding myself. But I hold myself to don't interrupt. Then even at each slide that you were moving on, you were answering those questions. So everything
Okay, good.
fine. But I had I still have one, which
Yes.
is there any kind of editor or tool or solution that help the teams or the professionals to generate their SBOMs? I know there's this Cyclone DX
Yeah.
standard. I use some tools that they have the option of exporting the SBOM. But is there any editor or any tool that you can consolidate all of them and then edit or add manual stuff there? Is there anything like that? Do you know?
So the correct answer would be I'm not enough aware of that.
Good, good.
I was a big fan. I was a big fan of Atom as an editor. So it's multi-purpose, and I try to do a lot of things with Atom. Cyclone DX, yes. If you, I mean, I believe the best in that case is to start from the slide where there are the definitions and go and explore, because things happen every day. Not really every day, but every month things happen. And I believe you're absolutely right. Cyclone DX
Yeah.
is the most likely to propose something that looks like an editor. So I've never been using a proper editor for that, but it's a little bit like I don't believe in the use that I've done of the SBOM. I don't believe we really need an editor. We need to make sure that at every stage, so from CI to the different stages of CD, we will feed that SBOM automatically. Okay, so this is more of
Hmm. Hmm.
you don't really need to visualize that, although it would be useful for the last use case I mentioned, which is the impact analysis. Impact analysis, when you use the SBOM for impact analysis, then having a visual representation is something that is very, very useful, very easier to read. And I've seen things, I mean, I've mentioned, I don't want to do some advertisement, so I just mentioned two companies before. One of them is doing a very interesting job for visualizing that. Visualizing the bill of material.
Okay, very
Worth
good enough.
exploring.
I believe also that the automation is the key. It's not something that you need to manually add it, but
Yes.
I don't know. Just out of my mind came the question. Maybe there are some things, but maybe some plugin for Visual Studio Code or something like this extension, just to make people's life, as you said, to visualize it. It could be a good idea. Uh, I don't see any questions from the audience as well. People are a bit of shy today, which is not a problem.
Okay.
So I believe that people will be, as the ones that will be watching this recorded after, please feel free to reach out us in the chat, on the comments of the video as well. Also, you can reach out directly to our speaker, Manuel. He has his LinkedIn shared. I think he's not a
Yeah.
problem. If you approach, you have some questions, that's not a problem, right? Okay.
Don't hesitate. It would be a pleasure. You will also see. I mean, there's a community because, as I said, SBOM is back. Well, 2 years ago. I think that before that we were really a very, very small community talking about SBOM. And I'm thinking about one of my friends, Lars. We've been talking about SBOM for years, probably now, but in a very small community. Now, SBOM is a topic that is of interest for many, many people, and it's very good. We are very happy of that. So you will see on LinkedIn there is a lot of conversations that are going on SBOM. Most of them are valuable, so don't hesitate to yeah, to come to me or to do a search. You will find some interesting stuff.
Cool. So thank you, Manuel, for joining us. Thank you for our time. Thank you for sharing such a valuable content. Again, thank you for the ones who were watching us live. Thank you for you who will be watching later recorded version. Please leave your comments. Also, join our community, DevSecOps community on Discord. There, are the speakers, organizers, a lot of interesting people sharing and sharing information. I think that's the main goal of our community is to share knowledge in general. So again, thank you, Manuel. Thank you again for your time. If you have any final considerations, feel free, and we see you next time.
Thank you, Gassio. It was a pleasure. Have a good one. Cheers. Cheers now. Bye. Bye bye.